Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Resident Evil Remake. In the last part we finished up our duties over at the guardhouse and left it behind, heading back to the mansion in the process, finding a lot of hunters here as well. Speaking of which, the moment you cross this screen transition, toons spawn in here. Not too much to deal with considering they actually take a second to actually attack you because their jumping in animation takes priority. So at the end of the last part we did the room directly above me and got the yellow and red gemstones there. We want to head back to the room with the tiger statue and use at least the yellow gemstone there, as that's where it's required. Notably, in the original game, using the red gemstone in that room is what got you the Magnum. They know people who played the original might try that if they haven't found the Magnum yet back in the graveyard through the Windcrest. The thing they do is funny as hell, even though it's also mean. Placing the red gemstone into the tiger statue spawns, like, several snakes in the room that will try to poison attack you, and it's funny as hell, but also evil. With that said, the red gemstone is now required by plot elsewhere, so if you put it into the tiger statue when you leave the room, I believe they do just place it on the ground after that. So for now, let's match the blue light that the tiger already has and put it in the yellow gemstone. This is our first of 3 MO discs. These aren't required to finish the game, but if you want to get the best ending as either character, you need to find all of them. So we're one step of the way there with that. With that said, that means we now need to go elsewhere to use the red gemstone, but thankfully, if you think about rooms we've seen in the game that are helmet key based, from the top of my head, there's only like, what, 3 or 4 at most, so you could probably figure out where we need to use the red gemstone pretty quickly. With that said, my next goal has nothing to do with the red gemstone. You might remember at the end of the last part-ish, we saw the elevator in the kitchen that I highlighted earlier on the LP. We powered that up last time, but I didn't use it. Using it to get up to where it leads is my next main destination because we're already so close to it anyway. Now, a notable gameplay shift I tend to do in the second half of the game is during the first half when all you're really dealing with is slower zombies, if I have the handgun in my inventory at all, I often just don't have it equipped, because I want the extra movement speed from not having a weapon on. But once the hunters show up, I usually always have the shotgun with me and equipped, as they're fast enough where they can usually outrun or at least keep pace with your faster movement speed from not being equipped with something. So having the ability to just turn around on a dime and shoot them down from trying to do something at you is more worth it to me at this point in the game, safety-wise. Jill, admittedly, is a bit easier to do that with, though, because not only do you have the extra inventory slots, but also her having the grenade launcher as a stopgap for some things also helps a lot with that. So now that we're out of the elevator, we're on a room on the second floor, not too far away, actually, from where we originally got the armor key. But the thing is, the door that leads to this room from that general vicinity is locked from this side, so we weren't able to access it otherwise. There is notably a closet over here we want to investigate, but there's a door at the other end of the hallway. In the original game, you could go through there. You can't in the remake because they changed how that room works. We'll see more about what I mean with that later. For right now, though, here in the closet, we got some shotgun shells, which I will happily take. As well as, I believe, either a flash grenade or a first aid spray, but also specifically another key item. What's in here is a battery, and if you had investigated a certain room a little more in depth than I believe either I did in recording or at least that I didn't mention because I was talking about something else at the time, you might know exactly where that goes already. But I recommend storing it for now, as before you go over and do that, there's things you should get done in the mansion itself first. With that said, because I'm now full on inventory because of Chris's limited inventory comparison to Jill's, I'm going to do some speed up right here to get back to a safe room, store away some of the items I need, and then get back to where we just were, as I still want to get stuff done in that vicinity. As I've said, I do tend to play Remake and Original as Jill more often than not, and it is largely because of her inventory space rather than the lockpick, as if I can do less backtracks to a nearby item box 8 rooms away, I will be happy with that. That is something I appreciate about a lot of the other classic Resis, is that usually later on in the game they either have away or you just outright get an inventory expansion so you can carry more with you later in the game. Although I think the best way they've handled that thus far is actually 2 and 3 Remake, let alone the attaché case in 4 and 4 Remake, as the hip pouches I think do a lot to make inventory management still important, but actively reward exploration in a way that makes doing other things later in the game a lot more, I'm not going to say intuitive, that's not the right word I want to use, but it makes it a little easier to digest, I suppose. So, like I mentioned, at the door at the end of the hall, this door is locked from this side, and we're going to find ourselves back in the room where we not only found the golden arrow back in part 1 for the tomb, but also where we first encountered a Crimson Head. Like I said, this is over near where we got the armor key for the first time, but I actually want to head back to that room because, like I mentioned at the time, there was a door at the far end of that hallway we were not able to open. But now that we have the helmet key, we can finally check that mystery question mark off our list finally. It's probably one of the longer lasting doors in the game. Mind you, effectively every helmet key door is, because you have to wait over half the game to find it. Hello there, I'm surprised I dodged that. Oh, actually, seeing the Crimson Head run to that other zombie like that reminds me. Crimson Heads have a certain attack that can actively knock down other zombies. I'm not sure if it damages them at all or not, but what I do know about it from doing some extra reading between parts earlier in the LP, even though I forgot to mention this, that attack can also knock down Forrest in one dangerous zombie. But notably, that's the one attack in the game that technically impacts Forrest that doesn't cause his grenades to go off. So in some regards, having a Crimson Head around actually makes Forrest a little easier to deal with, as limited in options as those are. Alright, welcome to the library for the mansion. In the original game, we got to this through the room where the elevator came to from the kitchen. But that doesn't work here in the original because the door is blocked off and locked for one reason or another. Time for our actual boss fight against the Yawn. They moved this from the room up near the eastern staircase safe room over to here in the library in the remake. Attack-wise, I believe the Yawn's the exact same as what happened in the room where you got the death mask. It'll either try to bite at you, it can coil around you and swallow you whole, which is an instant kill, and I think it has an attack where it comes from higher up to try and hit you. You can bait it to kind of raise its head up a bit higher because it moves a little bit slower, but ultimately it doesn't take that many shotgun shells to actually put this thing down. Pretty easy boss fight on the whole. I believe it can still poison you, and if it does, you need to go get the serum again, I believe, from the western safe room on the first floor. And thus, we've defeated the Yawn pretty anticlimactically, given how much of a threat it was that it could have actually killed Richard. But in doing so, it knocked against the bookshelf, and that released a key item for us. With that said, I am going to speed my way back up here to the second floor of the library really quickly, because I want to go grab the herbs that's over here, just to have them in my inventory, have a full green heal and all that. A little awkward. Yes, could I have done that on the way out? Absolutely, but I'd rather have used the inventory space like that for now. Also, just to showcase it, if we go over here to the front door of the library from the original game, doorknob's broken. There's no way to get there from that side of the hallway in Remake whatsoever. But defeating that boss fight made this book available to us. This is Last Book Volume 2. We found the partner book to this already in the LP, so if we investigate this, we're going to get the pair for the Eagle Medal. This is the Wolf Medal. Like with the Eagle Medal, the moment you get this, it really should just go into the item box for now, as we're not going to need it for a good little bit still. But make sure you grab it, otherwise, well, you're not beating the game. And honestly, it's been so long since my earliest playthrough of either Resi 1 version that I'm genuinely not sure if I ever really got to where you need to use those without having both of them anyway, just out of curiosity for using all the key uses I had. But it could have happened. Hell if I remember at this point, because first playthrough of Resi 1 was... that's coming up on, I think, 15 years now? Well over half my life at this point playing these games. Now, if you are either playing along or using this as your first playthrough, you might have been taking notes along the way, and you might realize there's only one helmet key door I've yet to investigate, and it's one of the earliest doors you can investigate in the game, as it's over on the first floor of the main hall. We're going to speed up to get back over there, but something I should note. In the case for some reason you haven't picked up the blue gemstone yet over at the first floor of the dining hall from pushing the statue up at the second floor of it down, I think if you come back to the mansion with the helmet key and you hadn't done that yet, it's automatically knocked down. That might be in the original game rather than the remake, though. I don't quite remember. Our goal is that door right over here. But before we actually go through it, there's one thing I should showcase that I've already mentioned in the LP. Another thing they added here to the main hall and remake is that there's a little area down here behind the staircase. And notably, there's a door that we can investigate. Wonder what's on the other side of this door. Well, we've heard that cry before. That's a little worrisome. So the next set of rooms through this helmet key door In the original game, this was all completely optional. But they added a key item to the second room here in Remake, so we actually need to go grab that. It's something handwritten. It's not dated. Nothing's changed. I never thought that this room I designed as an experiment would pay off like this. I can hide here safely for a while because nobody knows about the secret behind this painting. Not even Sir Spencer. Painting of a mansion in the back of the art room. That note actually is pretty on topic to what I was about to say. In the next room in the original game, there was a zombie and another door you could open. There's still a zombie here in Remake, but instead of there being another door you can open, there's a key item. That other door you could open required the closet key, which we get for beating the game no matter what version of the game you play. The closet was just for swapping character costumes. Instead, the closet still exists, but they've moved the door for it over to the area in the art room, the little like one-way pathway hallway, past where you get the first floor map. There's a painting of a castle there. If you use the closet key there, the door will open and you can change costumes there instead. It's a little easier to get to. Our key item here, though, is another jewelry box. We had one that contained a death mask earlier, but if we investigate this one, there's actually a round recession approximately 4 centimeters in diameter. That is where we now use the red gemstone from the deer head earlier. That knocks out these pieces, and now we have a puzzle. Very literally a jigsaw puzzle. We have 5 pieces, I believe, to just make the octagonal shape here that makes up a certain logo. There's a little bit of trial and error involved here, but thankfully they give you a more precise adjustment mode upon first placing a piece to edge it slightly over to the side a little bit. There's only so many combinations it could take, and even then I think they are generous enough where it doesn't need to be directly facing upwards, I think. It's not the hardest puzzle in the world. The fact there's only so many pieces really helps with that. And upon doing so, there's a brooch inside. And if we investigate this, there's nothing unusual, except there is, because you can clearly see that it's kind of hollow. Gotta investigate the front for this, I believe. The precise there. It's changed into a key. This is the emblem key. If you think through our explorations of the mansions thus far, there's still one door we've really yet to open outside of the one that leads to the closet. We need to head back towards the hallway that either connects to the eastern staircase where the other safe room is on the first floor, the painting puzzle room, or that leads ultimately to the guardhouse area where we first encountered a hunter, even last part. As the only door left in that area we've yet to unlock has that emblem emblazoned on its doorknob. Minor change, because I think that may have been another Helmet key door in the original game, but I appreciate the slight change of order of operations to make that room feel a little more important, given, from memory, that's meant to be sort of the head office for the entire mansion. Honestly, we're pretty quickly approaching the end of our second visit to the mansion itself before we head elsewhere on the grounds again. That's something I really do like about this game, is that the first visit to the mansion is roughly the first half or so, and then the latter half is very note for note, bang, 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 getting one location done very quickly, looking for very specific items. And admittedly, that is because the main part of the mansion is, at the least, like, probably 60 to 70% of the game room for room load, if that makes sense. Like, there's more rooms in the mansion than I think all the other areas in the game combined. Don't mind me, Hunter. You won't hit me. Oh, God, you almost did somehow through the corner. Welcome to the office.
Rebecca! Is she upstairs?
Rebecca is in danger. If you don't get to her quickly enough, she actually gets killed by a hunter. Doing so actively guarantees you one of the worst endings. Albeit it's still an ending. You need to get up to the room where we first got the dog whistle back in, like, what was that, part 2 or so? Directly above where we actually just were. You need to head up the stairs, out into the U-shaped hallway, and then backwards into the room where the tutorial for how the herb system in the game works. I don't remember what the timer is for this. Off the top of my head, I want to say I remember reading it was like 2 to 3 minutes when I was doing the Resident Evil 0 LP. Which isn't a lot of time to begin with, but in case you don't have a better weapon on you besides maybe a handgun, that does give you a moment to go into maybe the safe room directly near where we are and grab the shotgun if you don't have it already for some reason, but either way, hurry over to this room. Worth though, in the moment that cutscene ends, the hunter actually focuses on you, but thankfully you can fire willy-nilly in here and not have to worry about hitting Rebecca off the top of my head. Couple of shotgun shells, and like all other hunters, it dies.
Rebecca,
Chris!
you okay?
I didn't mean to get you worried.
We can't stay here any longer. We have to get to the others and find a way out of here. You with me?
Yes.
Then I'll go ahead. Until then, Rebecca, you're on your own. Stay cool and use your better judgment. Got it?
I can handle myself.
Good luck.
And thus we're now on track for the best ending.
I didn't mean to get you worried.
Well, mostly on track. There's technically a couple of other things we need to do to get the best ending, but we're on the way to it. Yeah, as I mentioned though, this is the tutorial for the game's healing system with herbs. I've already talked mostly about how this works in the game, but on a first playthrough, it's nice to find that just so you know the exacts of what each herb does. That's probably... I forgot to grab it earlier in the game, because for one thing, it blends in just enough with the desk that I didn't notice it, despite being prominently featured in the front of the camera. But also, I'm so used to not grabbing it, because I know how the herb system works, that it often just bypasses in my head. Oh god, get away from me. Whoop, 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 whoop. While we're next to this safe room, though, I actually am going to use it to reorganize my inventory. Namely, I'm going to be storing the wolf metal away, because we're not going to need that for a little bit yet. But I'm grabbing the square crank we used to reach the guardhouse the first time, as well as the battery we got up before the Yawn boss fight, as both are going to be coming in handy very quickly coming up here. This is also partially why I organize my inventory the way I do in the item box, so that all the key items like that are next to each other in such a way where I don't need to look for where they are in specific. Because, especially if you don't combine your ammo properly in the item box, it's very easy to just look past the item you're looking for and only see what's around it. That has happened to me several times in several of the games, especially Resi 2. I don't know why, I'm just really bad about doing that properly. Before we head to my next destination, I now want to properly investigate the office over here. And in my memory, I remember there being Magnum rounds here in the original game, but I believe they have moved those elsewhere for Remake. On top of the fact, I swear there was a note you could read here in the original game, but I guess not? That's kind of weird, but I might just be misremembering. Namely, in here is a flash grenade, as well as the actual key item we're here for, a metal object. That looks a little familiar to a certain item we found earlier in the game, you might be thinking. You're correct. A metal made from alloy. There's an emblem engraving. We need that in order to access our next major key hunt of sorts, but we're not going to be able to use that for at least another part or two. So now, we're effectively done in the mansion for now. There's exactly, I think, one thing we really have left to do here, but we're not going to be able to do that until I have another key hunt done. So our next goal is to actually leave the mansion again and head back towards the guardhouse, but not quite all the way there. As now that we have the battery, we can power up a certain other elevator and access new areas from this general vicinity. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 10, we're going to explore further out in the courtyard outside the mansion and see what new area we can find within. See you guys then.